Your manager lied to the people they answered to. Not once. Every single review, for years. And they got away with every one of those lies. Not because they were clever, but because nobody in that room knew enough to catch them. They were never actually good at the job. What they were good at was noticing something most people never admit out loud. Confidence and competence get treated as the same thing in that room. And the less the people above them understood the details, the more their version of events became the only version that mattered. This is the reframe artist. And they're proof of something uncomfortable. The truth doesn't win in that room. Confidence does. And ignorance is what lets it win. So let's break down exactly how they do it. Not in theory, in the actual rhythm of a normal work week. There are 4 moves this type of manager runs on repeat, quarter after quarter. And once you can name them, you'll start catching them in real time, while they're still happening in the room. And this isn't just going to be a breakdown of how they operate. By the end, you'll know exactly what to do about it. How to protect your own work the next time you're sitting in that same room. Move 1. They never answer the number. They answer the mood. Picture the room. Owners on one side of the table, directors on the other. Someone points at a metric that's been down 3 quarters straight. They don't argue the number. They never argue the number. They talk about the market. They talk about the team's morale after a hard stretch. They talk about anything except the actual figure. And within 90 seconds, the room isn't discussing data anymore. It's discussing context. Here's why that works. People confuse fluency with competence. When someone speaks fast, calm, and certain, the brain reads that as mastery, even when nothing factual has actually been said. And structurally, they're helped by the room itself. Nobody at that table has the live dashboard open. Their voice is the only data anyone can access in that moment. The system handed them the floor, and they never give it back. That's move 1. It isn't lying, at least not in a way anyone in the room could point to. It's the hardest kind of dishonesty to name, because nothing said was technically false. Here's where it gets worse. Move 2. They recruit a witness before the meeting even starts. 20 minutes before the review, they're already in someone's office. Not the bosses, peers, and allies, someone whose opinion the room respects. A quick, friendly conversation about how rough the quarter's been for everyone, how the market's shifted, how the whole industry's down. By the time the actual meeting starts, they already have a witness in the room who'll nod along when they say the exact same thing out loud. This works because of social proof. One confident voice agreeing with them costs nothing, but it costs everyone else the will to push back. Nobody wants to contradict 2 people who already seem to agree. Structurally, it's enabled by loose, informal pre-meeting culture. No agenda circulated in advance, no numbers shared ahead of time, just conversations in hallways that quietly decide the outcome before the meeting is real. Move 3. They assign credit before anyone can assign blame. Before the critique even lands, they've already named a name. Marcus really pushed hard this quarter. Diana basically carried the West region alone. Real employees, real praise. And now criticizing the department means criticizing people the room just heard them defend. Nobody at that table wants to be the one who tears down an employee they just complimented. This is diffusion of responsibility. Run in reverse. Once credit sits on individual names, blame can't land on the department without turning personal, and most leaders won't go there in front of peers. It looks like generosity. It's armor. Let's get to the move that protects them the longest. Move 4. They turn every critique into a future promise. Someone presses on the number 1 more time. They don't defend the past. They sell the future. Next quarter, we're restructuring outreach. We're already seeing early signs it's turning. The bad number from 3 months ago quietly gets replaced by a better number that doesn't exist yet. And the room, wanting to move to the next item on the agenda, takes the trade. This works because of temporal discounting. A promise about tomorrow feels more resolvable than a failure from yesterday. And most rooms would rather feel forward motion than sit inside an uncomfortable number. Structurally, they're protected by the calendar itself. Reviews happen quarterly, with no checkpoint in between. By the time anyone circles back, there's a new promise on the table to replace the last one. 4 moves. Reframe the number into a mood. Recruit a witness before the room exists. Convert blame into borrowed credit. Turn every failure into next quarter's promise. None of it is a lie you could point to on a page. That's exactly why it works. So what does this mean for you? If you report to someone like this, the first thing to accept is that you're not going to out-argue them in the room. That's their terrain, and they built it. Your job is to make sure the terrain isn't the only place your work gets judged. Start before the meeting, not during it. Bring your own numbers, written down, sent ahead of time to whoever's in that room. An email, a shared doc, something with a timestamp. That's how you counter move 1. Once the actual figures exist somewhere outside their mouth, mood can't replace them anymore. Watch for the pre-meeting conversations. If you notice someone getting looped in privately before a review, before you even walk into that room, that's move 2 happening in real time. You don't need to accuse anyone of anything. You just need to raise your own point early too, so the room isn't hearing only one version before the meeting officially starts. When credit gets handed out in a way that conveniently makes criticism feel personal, that's move 3. Don't let the compliment close the conversation. You can acknowledge someone's effort and still ask the actual question. That's great. So where did that effort not show up in the number? Effort and results are 2 different questions, and they need you to treat them as one. And when a bad number turns into next quarter's promise, write that promise down and bring it back up next quarter, publicly, before they get the chance to make a new one. That's how you close off move 4. Promises only protect them if nobody's tracking them. Ask for a written recap after every single review, not to catch them, but so a record exists somewhere they don't control the wording of. None of this works if you're doing it alone and quietly. The real fix isn't outsmarting them in the room. It's making sure the room itself has a source of truth that doesn't depend on them narrating it. A shared dashboard. Numbers sent in advance. Written follow-ups after every review. They're not the villain because they're incompetent. Plenty of incompetent people get corrected just fine. They're the villain because they built a system where their incompetence never has to answer to anyone. A room with no shared data, no agenda in advance, no checkpoint between promises. Fix that system, and the moves stop working, no matter how good they are at making them. If this is the manager you've been trying to explain to someone for years, subscribe. We're breaking down one of these every week, and this one won't be the last.